Today's topic is going to be 7 revealing questions to ask men on dates. 7 revealing questions to ask men on dates. Okay, so let's get started with number 1. Now, before we get started, I want to make it very clear to each and every one of you, okay, each and every one of you, that there is a purpose to each of these questions. Okay, and when I say there's a purpose to each of these questions, I mean you're trying to extract something particular from each of these questions. Because you're trying to extract something particular from each of these questions, you need to be aware of what it is you're trying to extract. So you're not just asking the questions and then, in la la land, not understanding what you're even looking for in his answer, because this is not about trying to steer his answer in any one particular direction. This is about understanding his answer and how his answer will be a depiction of his mindset and his mind frame that you can then take with you as added information, digest that, and choose to do with that whatever you choose to do. I know that a lot of you are waiting for me to tell you the questions that you should ask, and you feel like you're just going to ask the questions, and as soon as you ask them, the epiphany will hit you and the realization will hit you, and the answer he's going to give you will be a direct sign or response to let you know exactly how he's thinking and what he wants from you, and whether or not he just wants to sleep with you, and whether or not he's just wanting to. I know that's what you want, the easy magic pill. Okay? I'm not faulting you for wanting that. But what I want you to understand is extracting the truth from people is not that easy. When I say it's not that easy, it's not as simple as, did you murder that guy on 79th Street? There's no criminal that's just going to sit down at the police station and the first question you ask him is going to be, yeah, I did that on 79th Street at 3 a.m. with a 9mm. That's not how life works. You can get the truth from people, but it takes work, it takes massaging. Now, all of these questions are going to be directly indirect. And what I mean by directly indirect is that they are not necessarily gonna raise red flags as in, what do you think of me? What do you want in this relationship? Are you gonna be committed to me? Are you gonna be loyal to me? That's not what these questions are going to be. Okay, so if you're expecting that, you're probably in the wrong place. These questions are mostly, except for one, the majority of them are going to be centered around him and how he feels, so that you can take that information and extract from it whatever it is he is thinking about the relationship and what his intentions are, what his intentions are with you and with the relationship as a whole. Okay, that's what you're trying to extract with each and every one of these questions. So each question is going to be focused on a different point, emotional point, right? So we have things like mind frame, we have things like purpose, accountability, all this stuff. We'll go through all of them, but I just want you to understand the concept of what we're going to be doing here. Each of these questions will be categorized by whatever emotional state or truth you're trying to extract by asking that question. Just understand that this question is not going to be directly, hey, do you like me? Yes or no? Right? It's not going to be like that. And the reason it's not like that is for multiple reasons. But the main reason it's like that is because nobody just comes out and tells you exactly how they feel, because most people don't even know how they truly feel. And the best way to understand how someone feels about you is actually to ask them about themselves and to get them talking about themselves. You'll get a really good understanding of how they operate, how they approach things, how they'll likely approach this situation and this relationship. And so all of that, like I said, is information that you gather, you put in your memory banks, and then you can choose to do whatever it is you want to do with that information. Whether it be, I like these answers, I like how you respond, I'm going to continue seeing you. Or it can be, these answers were not what I not what I want my partner to be saying, or the way I want my partner to be talking, not the way I want my man to be thinking, right? These character traits or personality traits aren't in line with what I want my relationship to be. So now that I have this new information, it's probably going to be a no for me. Okay, and that's what I want you to be using these questions for. Okay, to gather that information that you can then choose to do whatever you want to do with that information. Okay, very important. Enlighten A said, congrats on almost hitting 4K, because I know by tomorrow you'll be past it. So I wanted to say earlier, thank you so much. I really appreciate it so much. Thank you. Okay, I hope you guys understand all of that, because without that understanding, none of this will make sense. So let's hop right into number one. So we have purpose. Okay. Number one is purpose. By the way, for those of you who are just joining us, this is 7 revealing questions to ask men on dates. Number one, purpose. So I want you to ask, we're going to go over each question, and then I'm going to do an in-depth explanation of why you're asking that question, what you're trying to extract from that question, why it's important, all that good stuff. Okay. Someone said it's glitching. Is it still glitching? Right? The glitches usually wear away. If the glitch continues, let me know. Okay. So number one, we have purpose. Okay. I want you to ask, if money wasn't an issue and you could be doing anything your heart desires for the rest of your life, what would you be doing? Okay. Let's pause there. Right? And let's explain why this question is important. For those of you who have joined me for multiple weeks now, you probably have heard me talk about this question before, but now we're having a dedicated segment to questions. So of course, this is going to be one of the questions, right? So the truth you're trying to extract from this question is purpose. Okay? That is the truth you're trying to extract from this question. Now, the reason it is so important to understand if a man has purpose or not, if you were listening to me or watching the shows that we did when we talked about dating apps, when we talked about getting a guy to chase you, all of that good stuff, right? We talked about you're not just trying to get any man to chase you. You're trying to get the men who are already motivated to chase things in their life in general to chase you, because the men who aren't motivated to chase anything in their life and want everything as quick and easy and painless as possible will not be interested in chasing you, which is why it's such a bad place to be when you're spending all your time on dating apps, because dating apps are full of all the men who are too lazy to go out and meet women in real life and have to do real work and have to actually face rejection. That's why they get on the dating app. It doesn't require them to leave their house. It doesn't require them to be charismatic. It doesn't require them to be interesting or funny or be able to hold conversation. All they got to do is swipe left or right and have a little bit of a chat with you, and then they get you on the date. So you're meeting a lot of men who are taking the path of least resistance and desire the path of least resistance, especially in the relationships, right? So it's a bad place for you to be when you're standing in the path of least resistance, because all you're going to meet is guys who are unmotivated to chase after you. Okay. Now, when it comes to purpose, it's so important to understand why you need to know if a man has purpose. Okay. I want you to understand, and this is me speaking as a man from a man's perspective. I know that you as a woman, you love relationships and you love love, and that makes you feel so good having a happy, amazing, awesome, long-lasting relationship. And so do we as men. 100%. That is true for us as well. And you're not a bad person because you love relationships and love. That's why you're here. Okay? That's why we're all here. Now, what I will say though is that men also need in their life the fulfillment of being successful in their career or whatever it is they're passionate about. That is also what is very important to any man. Okay? Now, even though it's important to men because it makes them feel important, it makes them feel wanted, it makes them feel necessary, it makes them feel a part of something, not a lot of men know what their purpose is. Okay? Actually, majority of men don't know what their purpose is, but you're not trying to date majority of men. You're trying to date one single man, unless you're polyamorous, but I'm assuming most of you aren't. Okay? You're only trying to find one man who has purpose. And so this question is centered around trying to figure out if he has purpose or not. Now, let's break down the question so we can really understand why it's being asked in the way it's being asked in this particular context. So we'll read it over again. If money wasn't an issue is the first part. Okay. The reason you're asking that at the beginning is because you want to make sure you make it clear to him when you're asking this question. When we're talking about what you're waking up and doing for the rest of your life, it cannot be in alignment with, making money. Because that's the first thing that everyone thinks of. The rest of my life, I just want to make money, make as much money as possible, get rich, doing whatever it is that will get me the richest. Okay. The reason you ask it this way, especially at the beginning, and you remove the money aspect of it, is because you want to figure out what he cares about and what brings him happiness outside of making money. Because there's a lot of men who are only doing things in their life for the sake of making money. They don't really enjoy it. They don't really care about it. They're not really interested in it. And if it wasn't for the fact that it pays them or pays them well, exceptionally well, they wouldn't be doing that particular thing because they're not particularly interested in that thing. And you'll be shocked how many men in this world, in this world that we live in, this beautiful blue world, you'll be shocked how many men do not actually know what brings them happiness outside of making money. Okay, so when you say this at the beginning, a lot of men are going to be stumped because their first response and their first reaction will want to be, well, whatever makes me money. Oh, I do stocks because stocks makes a lot of money. Oh, I do investing because investing makes a lot of money. None of that, right? None of that. You take away the money aspect by saying that at the beginning. That's why you have to say that at the beginning. So then let's look at the next part. So after you say if money wasn't an issue and you could be doing anything your heart desires for the rest of your life. So now, right, you've put him in a situation where you literally have nothing but time. Okay? They say time is money. Now you don't have to worry about the money. All you have to do is spend time. Okay? You have time, nothing but time. Now, because the money aspect has been taken away in your question that you just asked on this date, it's so beautiful because he's forced to come up with a way to spend all of that time in a way that makes him and brings him happiness. This is so important. Okay, it's actually monumentally important. And it's monumentally important for you to understanding that. It's monumental for you to understanding it. It's monumentally important for you to understand that. My brain went mixed up, scrambled for a second. Okay. Very important for you to understand what brings him happiness outside of making money, because, right, not only are you keying into his purpose, but you're also keying into what he's about, what he cares about, what he's direction towards, because your purpose is also going to be where you're directing your life and energy towards. That's how it should be. Your purpose shouldn't be in misalignment with what it is you're doing or what it is you're pursuing right now, especially as an adult. Okay? Right? So it's great for many reasons because you'll get an understanding of if he has purpose or not. You'll also get an understanding of if he feels like there's something in his life that he's called to do or he really cares about. But then you also realize that he's not doing that. Now you have to start asking some more questions about why there is misalignment in what he feels he should be doing or what brings him happiness and why he's not actively doing that. The reason that is so important is because another really weird and interesting thing happens with men. And obviously I'm a young man, so I haven't experienced this yet, but I have been friends with and have elder figures who have experienced this on a massive scale. And it's actually scary, which is why I actively analyzed it and I want to avoid it as much as possible. Because what happens is the men who have their happiness over here, right? What they want to be doing, what they're passionate about in this particular question, what they would spend the rest of their life doing. They have that and it's over here. But because of whatever circumstance, whether it be life, family, a girlfriend, or whatever it may be, they're not doing whatever it is that purpose is or whatever it is that thing that makes them happy. Instead, in their everyday life, they're doing something that doesn't make them happy. And in a lot of cases, that makes them miserable. Okay. Now you have a problem because this really, really weird thing happens to men when they get to a particular age, let's say around their 50s. It's called a midlife crisis. Okay. And it doesn't just happen to men. Obviously, it happens to women as well, it happens to everyone. But specifically men, because they get to a point in their life where they realize that if they haven't been doing what they really wanted to be doing, when they get to around 50 years old, they realize that, hey, I don't actually have that many more years left on this planet. And then they look back on the time and the years that they've spent on this planet, and they actually analyze, what is it that I've been doing all of this time on Earth? All of this time that I've had, all these decades, all these years, all these months, what have I been doing? And they look back on that time and they come to the epiphany, the realization that they have wasted all of that time doing things that they did not want to do. Whether it be going to a school that they didn't want to go to because of their parents, whether it be hanging out in places that they didn't want to hang out with just because everyone else was doing it, whether it be just wasting their life away doing drugs, sleeping with random people, whatever it may be, they just come to the realization that I have not been living my life in accordance to what makes me happy. So then what happens? They realize, I only have a limited amount of time left on this earth. I need to be doing as many things that make me happy as possible. And so what do they end up doing? They end up buying a sports car, or they start dating a 22-year-old, or they start doing a bunch of things that you'd be like, I thought you outgrew this. I thought this is stuff that a teenage boy would be doing. I thought this is stuff that, a young man would be interested in or pursuing. Why are you all of a sudden doing a 180 and now you want to abandon your family, and now you want to go off and do all this stuff that's super trivial that you shouldn't be doing as a man with responsibilities. Okay, right? And so that's why these men go through these midlife crises, however you plural it out, right? Because they come to the realization that they have been in misalignment with what makes them happy, and they've spent a whole bunch of time doing things that don't make them happy, that they don't make them feel fulfilled, that isn't part of their purpose. And so they become so enraged with the amount of life they've wasted on things that they don't care about. They actively start trying to make up for that time by doing all the things they never got a chance to do when they were younger. And so they do them now, which is why he kind of reverts back to a teenage boy or a 20-year-old man. And he does all the things that a 20-year-old boy would do, because back when he had the time to do that, or the space to do that, or he was allowed to do that, for whatever reason, he didn't do that. Whether it be distractions, whether it be a lack of just understanding himself, or not looking himself in the mirror and being honest with himself about where he is in his life and if he's happy at that time, right? A lot of guys are like that. They're not really thinking about, what do I want right now? What makes me happy? They don't care about that. They just want to be young and free and do what everyone else is doing. And it doesn't hit them in the face until they're 50 years old. And then now they want to backtrack. Okay. And I say all that because it's so important to identify very early on if you're with a man or dating a man who is going to have that problem. Okay. That's why this is a great question on a date. This is actually a great question for a beginning stage dater, or even like when you're well into the dating stage with someone. This is a great question, because once you identify that misalignment, you need to take that information, right? Like, there's no right or wrong answers, but you need to be very aware of that answer and that misalignment, because if he's an adult, I'm assuming you're all adults here. You shouldn't be under 20 years old and listening to me. As an adult, this is not something that, if he's not pursuing the things that make him happy, or he's not, in alignment with that as an adult, you need to give him the space to go figure that out, because that's not something you figure out as you're in the relationship, because you have more responsibilities. You have someone else who needs your time and attention. And so if you have someone else that needs more of your time and attention, that time and attention cannot be focused on you and figuring out what your happiness is, right? And you also don't want to make the mistake of dealing with a man who is in misalignment with his purpose, and then 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, all of a sudden he wakes up out of bed one day and says, yo, I don't really like this marriage. I want to go live in Hawaii. And you're like, what? Wait, what? What happened? I thought you were fine. You never say anything. You never address anything. You didn't tell me anything was wrong. You didn't tell me you felt bad about anything. Now all of a sudden you want to get up, you want to move to Hawaii and be single. I don't understand where this came from. It came from somewhere, right? You just didn't do the job of identifying the root of the issue. And the root of the issue, a lot of times when it comes to these men just waking up, having these midlife crises, or just waking up and doing a complete 180, is because they're in misalignment, right? Their happiness and their purpose is over here, but in their everyday life, they're doing something over here, right? Either he doesn't realize that he's in misalignment, or he actively realizes it and ignores it because I want to make a lot of money, or because that's just not what I'm going to do right now, or because whatever the excuse is why he's not pursuing what it is that he feels he's called to pursue, or what it is that he feels makes him happy or brings him happiness. Okay, now, very important with this question, I want you guys to understand the types of things that people commonly answer this question with, and why you should be very weary of those answers, and how to probably pull out more and extract out more truth out of that, because it can feel very vague when they answer like this. I want to ask you guys, if I asked you that question, and I'm sure it'll pop up in the chat because I've asked this question to many people and I've seen the same answers repeatedly. I'm asking you now, if money wasn't an issue and you could be doing anything your heart desires for the rest of your life, what would you be doing? I want each and every one of you to answer that for me in the chat, and I'll point out what the most common answer is, because I know what the most common answer is that everyone gives. But I want you guys to all give your each individual answer, okay? Life Sucks says art. Elise says traveling and focusing on health and wellness in the community. Okay. Jen says creating art. All right. I want to hear each and every one of your answers. Be honest with me. Okay. Bunny World says travel. Sky says traveling. Stephanie says traveling. Clear says I'd write songs and play the piano. Build a big house. Something artsy, Barb says, or Bree says. Right? Traveling. Vicky says living my best life. Have my own skincare line. I really like that, Shreese. Modeling, Grace says, travel. Missy America in the YouTube chat says helping humanity. Okay. By the way, thank you so much, Suzuki, for the $5. I just seen your super chat now. She says, thank you for the advice and the energy. Thank you so much for the super chat. For those of you guys who don't know what super chats are, they're just like gifts, but on YouTube. So thank you so much for the $5.55 super chat. You're the first and second person to give me a super chat on YouTube. So I really appreciate that. Babe Batty says, getting paid by just laying down, as in having my own business and having people work for me. Okay, what's the business? Suzuki says, creating art, travel to my other home in Jamaica and giving back. Destine in the TikTok chat says cooking. I see traveling and volunteering. Batia says skincare. Nell says shopping and being a rich mom. Okay, nothing wrong with that, right? Open a foster home to spend all my time making it a happy home. That's a really nice one. I like that one. Okay. Now, the reason I ask you guys that question, and I was correct. I don't know if any of you guys noticed what the most popular answer that everyone gave was, but it's the most popular answer that everyone gives, right? Doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's just the most popular answer everyone gives. Everyone, majority of people, a lot of times when they don't know how to answer the question, or they're unsure of what it is that they want, will answer with travel or traveling or visiting countries. Okay? That's the number one thing everyone likes to answer that question with. Now, that doesn't mean there's anything particularly wrong with that, but I also want you to go a level deeper. You know, we love to go deep on the show. Okay? You got to go a level deeper, and you have to extract what is the reason you want to be traveling, i.e., what are you trying to write? This is what you need to be asking him. What are you trying to extract from the experience of traveling that would make you want to do it for the rest of your life. This is very important. Okay? The reason it's very important is because some people will say traveling, and they'll actually have a root reason why traveling is an experience that they want to have for the rest of their life. Okay? Some people might be like, well, I want to gain a better perspective, and I want to travel the world and gain a better perspective on humanity and what humans go through so I can increase my empathy, have a better understanding of the world. And I want to be a writer, and I want to be able to write from different perspectives and walks of life and stuff like that. You might have someone answer like that. Okay. In which case there is an actual truth and there is an actual purpose to the traveling. Okay. Now, the reason I say that is because some people will choose to say traveling, and then when you ask them, what are you trying to extract from the experience of traveling? They'll just say, I just want to meet people. Okay? Now, and I know for some of you, that's your own answer. I just want to meet people. Someone even says sharing a joy with others. Okay? That's great. However, if you were to go a level deeper, what is the reason you want to share joy with others? Okay? It's not just, I just want to meet people. I just want to share joy with others. What is the reason that you want to share joy with others? What is the reason you want to meet people? What is the reason you want to have more experiences and see the world? Okay, there's more to that. And this is a pro tip. If they say that they're not sure why they want to travel, or they don't know what they're trying to extract from the experience, that should tell you that traveling is just a placeholder for I don't know. Okay? Because some people, and this is why I want you guys to be weary, some people are going to give you answers that really translate to I don't know, or I haven't thought about it, or it hasn't been on my mind. And I'm trying to make you aware that some of these answers are not going to be I don't know, but they really mean I don't know. That's why I want you guys to be very weary of the travel answer, because a lot of people are going to tell you they would love to travel the world. Then when you ask them why or what they're trying to extract from the experience of traveling, they tell you, I don't know, I just want to meet people. That really means I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life and with all my time. Okay? Because remember how the question is structured. What would you be doing for the rest of your life? Even if you say traveling where? To what type of places? You can travel across the street. You can travel downtown. You can travel to Miami. Where are you traveling, and why are you traveling to those particular? This is what you're doing for the rest of your life. Okay? So traveling is too vague. You got to be you're traveling for the rest of your life. Okay, what are you doing on those travel adventures? You understand? That's why the question is structured in that particular way, because people love to just answer with something vague to get away with it. And the guys are going to be more inclined to answer with something vague just to get off of the question. But you really need to be digging here, because if he doesn't have an answer to what he would do with the rest of his life, we're talking about 40, 50 years. And he has no idea what he would do at that time, or no idea what would bring him joy or happiness or fulfillment in that time period, then you're dealing with a man who's a little bit off on his purpose, or a little bit misaligned, right, with what he feels he should be doing or pursuing. Because you have, like I said to you, this is a really important part of men that I know a lot of you guys don't realize. Men have to feel like they're chasing after and pursuing their purpose. That is what makes them feel fulfilled. They cannot only be fulfilled just simply by their relationship. They need to feel needed and wanted, not just by you, their partner, right? But in life, they want to feel important. They want to feel successful. They want to feel like the man. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's their masculine nature. So it's very important that a man is pursuing whatever it is that makes him feel like the man, whatever it is that brings him that fulfillment and that joy and that happiness, because that's also what's going to keep him level throughout the relationship. Men cannot be, this is what I'm talking about, heterosexual, straight relationships. Don't get mad at me. Men cannot be up here one day, down here the next day, up here one day, down. They can't be like that, because you have to have room to be like that. And if you need room to be like that, have your emotional states go up and down. There's nothing wrong with that. You're an emotional being, right? There has to be someone who is level-headed and on an even playing field that's not up too high and not down too low all the time, that can help you balance out the things that you're feeling. Because if he too is up high one day and down low in the dumps the next day and up high one day, everyone is, the whole house is going to be on fire, right? And there's going to be no one with a hose to put anything out. There needs to be a yin and yang. There needs to be a balance. And so men need those things that ground them outside of the relationship to give them that sanity, to give them that balance. Have you ever noticed that most of the guys who go crazy and do this wild stuff, have these midlife crises, pull a 180, usually don't have balance in the rest of their life, or usually aren't centered in one particular direction? Part of being all over the place, or part of not having joy or fulfillment in your life, or direction or purpose, it takes you off center. It takes you off balance. And like we always talk about, how you do your life is how you're going to do your relationships. So eventually that unbalance spills over into the relationship as well. Right? Someone says, do you think men somehow know things naturally more or better than women? No, I think we all are capable of knowing things naturally as individuals. Okay. There's no one person that's better than the other. That's just my own belief. I don't know how everyone else thinks. Okay. So are you guys following me on that so far? Does that question make sense why it is so important? Okay. Very important question. Now we have question number 2 here. Okay. Question number 2. Sorry, I think that was a call from getting my internet installed later. Okay. Now question number 2 has to do with interest. Okay. Very important that you ask this question as well. This is the one that I know you guys are going to, my squirtlin, because this is the one you're going to be dying to ask. I know this is the one that you're going to be dying to ask because this is the only question that I have on the list that has to do with you. And when I say has to do with you, is like you asking him about how he feels about you. So I know that's the one you're dying to ask. Okay. Hold your horses. All right. Cause this is structured in a very particular way and it's not really about you. You just need to have an understanding of something in a holistic sense. Okay. But I know this is the one you're going to be dying to ask. This is the first one you're going to jump onto. So I'm just giving you that heads up now. If you want to write it down, do whatever you want to do to take a note of it. Okay. I would advise you though, when you ask this question, you're going to be gauging his interest in you, but I would advise you to only ask this question when you're down the road in the relationship for at the least, right? Like 6 to 7 months. Okay. And I'm talking about 6 to 7 months of like it being serious, not 6 to 7 months of casually seeing other people while you see the person. All right. Like I'm talking about, you should be exclusive by this time, right? Well into exclusivity. Now, when you're this is the question I want you to ask. You guys have heard me ask this before, talk about this question before. If you are an active participator in all of the live shows, what character or personality traits unique to me do you like about me specifically? Okay. I'm going to say it one more time. If you were screen recording or if you want to write it down, even the mods can put it down there for you guys, because I know they've heard this before as well. What character or personality traits unique to me do you like about me specifically? This question is so important to ask for multiple reasons. You're obviously going to be gauging his interest in you, but you're gauging his interest in you not to stroke your ego. You're gauging his interest in you to understand if he is with you for you as a person, or if he's with you for some external source that's going to wither away or be less important sometime in the future. Okay? Now, I want us to all be very clear. With this question, there are 3 particular red flag answers. And when I say red flag answers, I mean answers that you should be very concerned about, simply because they don't speak to him having a good mindset towards the relationship. And it probably means he's with you for the quote unquote wrong reasons. Right? And when I say wrong reasons, I just mean reasons that won't hold up over the span of a lifetime relationship. Okay? Because you want his reasons to be focused on you, and specifically you, that he doesn't feel tempted to be with someone else because someone else can't be you. Someone else can't have your personality. Someone else can't have your character. Someone else can't be who you are. You're unique. You're a one of one. You're the only one with your fingerprint. And so you need to know that he is identifying the uniqueness and specificity of you that he wants to be, and he knows he wants to be with you specifically. That's why this question is so important to gauging interest. Okay, now when you're asking this question, I told you there's 3 specific red flags that you really want to avoid. When I say avoid, you really want to be weary of, because these are red flag answers, to be honest with you. Okay, you don't say anything. You shut your mouth when he's answering. You let him answer honest to himself. But if he answers one of these 3 red flag ways, then you know you're probably in a bad place, right? You're probably in a bad situation. The 3 different red flag types of answers are: number 1, you have an answer that has to do with your physical traits. That is a red flag answer. Okay, I'm gonna break down each one in depth, so we'll get to them. I just want to tell you all 3 first. You don't want him to give you an answer that has to do with your physical traits. You also, number 2, you do not want him to give you an answer that is vague. Okay. And number 3, you do not want him to give you, I'm talking about do not want, it's a red flag. You don't want to receive an answer that relates back to himself. Okay, now let's break down each of these 3 so that you're very aware of what you're looking for and understand what we're talking about. Number 1, you don't accept an answer that has to do with your physical traits. Meaning, if you ask him, what character or personality traits unique to me do you like about me specifically? And he responds to you, I like that you have the biggest booty. I love that you got these voluptuous yitties. I love that you're got such a small waist and you're so fit. You got a tight body. You got a supermodel face, right? The reason is not because he's lying to you, and it's not because he doesn't believe that. It's simply because your beauty, no matter how hot and sexy and amazing you are, and I don't deny that you're the most hottest, sexiest woman on this earth, okay? But the reason I say that is because no matter how hot and sexy and amazing you are, when you get old or older, you will be hot, sexy, but older. And the problem with that is that your beauty is also tied to your youth. Okay? That's just the honest truth. I have to be honest with you. We have to be real with each other. So if he is basing his reasoning for being with you on your physical traits, then what happens when you become older and you're no longer the hottest and youngest girl on the block? Right? Right? You don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're with a man who is only with you because you're the youngest, hottest thing on the block. Because when someone else comes along and you become older and there's a new youngest, hottest thing on the block, what's going to happen? His head's going to turn into the direction of the new youngest, hottest thing on the block. And all of a sudden, he's going to forget about how amazing and awesome you were. And you're going to be frustrated because you can't keep your man, and your man's not interested in you anymore for reasons that are outside of your control, truly. Okay, you don't want to be in a situation like that, and you don't want to be with the man who's only with you simply for your physical traits. So when you ask him that question and the first thing that comes out of his mouth is a bunch of physical traits, you're probably in a bad place. You need to be rethinking some things, okay? You need to go home and sit down with some things. Number 2, okay? So number 1 was physical traits. Number 2, we have an answer that is vague. You do not want to be accepting an answer that is vague, right? Someone says, I was asking why. Oh, because I'm not toxic. I'm not toxic. I don't think I'm toxic. Number 2, you don't want to be asking a question that is vague. I'm a red flag though. Maybe I am toxic. Anyways, you don't want to be accepting an answer that is vague simply because this one's pretty straightforward. You do not know if he even notices anything about you really. Because a vague answer could be something like, oh, you're super nice, you're super kind, you're so cool, you're so chill. We talked about chill yesterday, right? We talked about chill yesterday. You don't want an answer like that, because that could be his mom, his brother, his auntie, his cousin, his sister, his dog, his cat. It could be literally anyone. Literally anyone. Okay? That's not a reason that he's with you specifically. And if his answer is vague, that also translates to, honestly, I don't know. Honestly, I haven't thought about it. But he doesn't want to say that, so he's going to give you a vague answer, hoping that you'll just move on. Okay? You don't want him to give you a vague answer. That's a very, very bad sign. That's a sign that he's really not paying attention to you, and he really doesn't know why he's with you. He's just kind of spending his time around you and chilling with you, right? Wasting his own time away because he's not really sure what he wants. Because if he knew what he wants, he would know why he's spending that time with you, which means he wouldn't be giving you a vague answer. That's why you don't accept vague. Vague is pretty straightforward. So number 1 was physical traits. Number 2, you don't accept is vague. Number 3, and this is the hardest one to grasp, because I know a lot of you guys will be like, what? It doesn't make sense. What? I don't really get that. What? Right? Because it's going to feel like it's an acceptable answer, but really there's hidden meaning behind it. The number 3 thing that's a red flag when you're asking this question, if he gives you this particular answer, okay, is an answer that relates back to himself. Okay? You do not want to accept an answer that relates back to himself. Let me explain why, okay? Because I know it's a little bit confusing. Let's say you ask him the question, what character or personality traits unique to me do you like about me specifically? And he answers back to you that he loves that you take such good care of him. I love that you take such good care of me. I love that you're so nice to me. I love how much you do for me. I like that you cook for me. I like that you do this, do my laundry, wash my underwear, wash the poop stains out of my underwear. I like that you clean the toilet. I like that you give me foot jobs, whatever it may be. Okay? And it relates back to himself. That's a red flag answer. The reason it's a red flag answer is because that's not about you. That has nothing to do with you. That's really about what you do for him. And the problem with that, you might think, oh, well, there's no problem with that. What's the problem with that? He loves what I do for him. The problem with that is, down the line, what's going to keep him in a relationship with you if someone else comes along and does the same things as you? Well, now he's probably convincing himself why he should be with that girl instead, right? There has to be a sticking point. There has to be a thing about you as a unique individual that is making him want to stay in a relationship with you specifically. That way, when temptation comes, because temptation will come, that way, when trouble comes, where you go through your ups and downs of being in a relationship, which everyone does, he doesn't have the mind frame of, oh, this is so hard now, so I'm going to go to the other girl who treats me better, or who treats me the same, or I'm going to go to the other girl who looks good, or I'm going to go to the other girl who's just like her. You know what I mean? Because he's not really with you for you. He's just kind of with you as a placeholder. And you'll be shocked how many guys are spending time with girls who are really just placeholders to them and not the girl they really want to be with. Okay, so this question is great because you can get a very clear understanding of, am I a placeholder or does he really want to be with me? Okay, are we following each other so far? Are we following each other so far? Right? Does that make sense to all of you? I want to make sure we're on the same page. Right? Melissa says, can you give us some examples of good answers? That's a great question. Okay, I'll give you an example of a good answer when it comes to this question. So let's say you ask, what character or personality traits unique to me do you like about me specifically? And then he responds to you, you know what? I love how generous you are. I love how much you take care of the people that you love. You always go out of your way to make people feel special. I seen how you did for your best friend. You took her out on her birthday dinner, even though, you know, she said she didn't want a big thing. And then you threw her a surprise party and you made it all amazing for her. And you just do such a good job of making the people around you that you care about feel loved, that it honestly inspires me to be more caring and more passionate in my own friendships, because I appreciate so much watching you be that generous and kind to other people and taking care of the people that you really care about in your life. You see how that answer had a lot of depth to it? And even in the answer, it was like I pointed out specific things that were done that I noticed and took notice of that were in line with what I feel or why I feel that way. That is only going to come from the mind of someone who is actively paying attention to you, the person, taking interest in you, the person, as a human being, and actually digesting and understanding the qualities about you that they enjoy and they love. Now, obviously, let's be for real. Let's be so for real. Okay. Not all men are going to be as descriptive and be able to paint a picture as nice as I do. I'm not saying I'm any better than them. I just, I have different skill sets. So I can make something super emotional and intricate and detailed. Not all men are going to be able to do it just like that. Okay. So it won't sound as beautiful and poetic as that. All right. There's nothing wrong with that though. As long as you can get the gist of, okay, he knows what he's talking about. Like he knows why he likes me and he knows why he's with me. You'll feel the difference. Now that I've told you, especially, you'll feel the difference between a vague answer, obviously an answer that has to do with your physical traits, and an answer that's really about him. You'll feel the difference between that and an answer that's genuine, that's really about you, the human being, and not about any of those other three things. Okay. So that is number 2. So obviously we had number 1 that had to do with purpose. Number 2 that had to do with interest. Number 3 is related. The number 3 question is related to accountability. Okay. Very important that you are with a man who can take accountability, because if you're not with a man who can take accountability, whenever he makes mistakes or whenever things happen in the relationship that aren't so good, how are you going to solve problems if he can't be accountable to those problems? Right? You're not perfect. He's not perfect either. But if the times that he's not perfect, he's not going to be able to acknowledge that he's not perfect because he can't take accountability. Well, you're between a rock and a hard place. You're not going to be able to solve a lot of problems that way if he can't take accountability. That's why this question is so important. That's what you're trying to extract from this question, this number 3 question. Now, let's ask it. So the question is, what is a common theme in your past relationships that you want to avoid in this one? I'm going to say it again. What is a common theme in your past relationships that you want to avoid in this one? Okay. Now, the reason this is such a good accountability question is because naturally it's going to force someone to look inward at not just themselves, but the way they have contributed to a relationship that has manifested itself in having similar things happen in each individual relationship. So I'll give you an example. When you ask that question, right? Let's say he's had 3 girlfriends in his life and you ask that question to him and he starts telling you, well, something that I've noticed is every time have some distance from my partner, let's say we don't live, right next to each other, or, we don't see each other every 2 days or 3 days, I tend to get really distant, and, it has always ended up in me breaking up with my partner or us breaking up because I don't do well with the distance and stuff like that. Right. And the way it's manifested itself, I just tend to ignore my partner after a while. I tend to only focus on the people that I'm around. And a lot of times I just lost interest in my girlfriend because we had distance. Let's say he says something like that. Okay. And first of all, it's a good answer because that requires accountability, but it also shows you some of the things you can expect in this relationship, right? Because that's who he's been. And a lot of times that's who he's going to continue to be. So if he's saying things that you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened to you multiple times, right? Then you also need to be wary of that, because then that means that's probably not going to be the relationship for you. Okay. Now, when we're talking about these common themes, it's very important to understand some guys, like we talked about when we're talking about the answers people are going to give that are disguised in something. Some guys are going to answer these questions in ways that make it seem like nothing that has happened has been his fault. So he might give you an answer to the common themes in his relationship. Oh, all my partners cheated on me, or all my exes were toxic, They might say something like that. That's the common theme. All my exes have been super toxic. That's something you need to be aware of and you need to take note of. Because common themes, especially when someone's had multiple serious relationships, and these are common themes in these multiple serious relationships, these are the type of things you should be asking follow-up questions on to get an understanding of what the actual situation or truth is. And when I say actual situation or truth is, I simply mean that if there is a common theme in multiple different serious relationships, the only common denominator is him. So then you need to turn off your brain and your ears to whatever he says to you about how nothing has been his fault and it's been everyone else. Start listening and asking questions in a way that helps you understand why he has been the common denominator in whatever these different themes have been. So if he tells you, I've been in all the common themes, I've always been in super toxic relationships, we get super abusive and we just yell at each other, we curse out each other and all that stuff, and it just ends up going super overboard. That's how all my relationships have been. X out all this stuff that he'll say after that about how his ex was toxic. None of that matters because you're not in a relationship with his ex. You're in a relationship with him. You need to be identifying what character traits or what things that he does or says or the way he acts, what leads him to be consistently in these toxic relationships. What character traits does he possess? What personality traits does he possess that is pushing him into being in these toxic relationships consistently? Okay, that's why I said this requires accountability, because some people are going to try to escape accountability by saying, oh, the common theme in all my relationships have been that everyone else is the problem. You do not. You want to stay as far away from the guys and the girls, to be honest, but you want to stay as far away from the guys that you're trying to actively date that are everyone else was the problem type of person. Okay, any of these everyone else was the problem type of people, you will never be able to have a happy relationship with that type of person, because they're never going to be able to take accountability for anything that they do in the relationship. So how are you going to solve problems? Literally, you can't solve problems. Okay, because when you make a mistake, you have to acknowledge your mistake. You have to take accountability for that, apologize for it, try to work on it, fix it, and adjust it, and try to be a better partner to your partner who you're in a relationship with. That system can only work if the person can even acknowledge that they made a mistake in the first place. Because if they can't acknowledge that they made a mistake, if they can't be accountable to their actions, if they can't apologize, right, and try to do better, then nothing can get resolved. And if nothing gets resolved, then you just consistently have problems stacking on top of problems, stacking on top of problems, stacking on top of problems. And eventually it's going to blow. Okay. So you cannot be in a relationship that is not that the person that you're with is not taking accountability. Okay. You have to be in a relationship where that person is taking accountability and willing to take accountability. That's why that is such an important question to ask exactly in that way. For those of you who missed it, I'll say it again. What is a common theme in your past relationships that you want to avoid in this one? Okay, now let's go to number 4. Okay, number 4. So number 1, we had a question that had to do with purpose. Number 2, we had a question that had to do with interest. Number 3 is a question that has to do with accountability. And number 4, we have a question that has to do with honesty. Okay. Now, this question is very good because like the other question, it has to do with his past relationships. You get an understanding with where he's at with things. You also get an understanding with how open and honest he's going to be about things, which is why this question has to do with honesty. Excuse me. Oh, that was quite a burp. Now, this question, okay, you want to write this down, do whatever you need to do. If I were to sit down with your ex, what would she say the reason that you guys broke up is? I'm gonna say it again for those of you who missed it. If I were to sit down with your ex, what would she say the reason you guys broke up is? This is a great question to gauge someone's level of honesty, also accountability, but most importantly, honesty. Because an honest person and a real person that has some emotional intelligence, any level of emotional intelligence, understands that perspective will change based on the individual. They will also understand that in a relationship, your intention doesn't really matter. What I mean by that is how you meant for someone to take it, especially your partner, doesn't really matter. It really matters how your partner actually took it. So this question is going to tell you if that person, if this guy can be honest enough to step outside of himself and really be honest about the perspective that his own past ex-girlfriend has on the relationship. And the guys who are honest will give you a perspective that is actually seems realistic to what an ex would say. Because majority of people's exes aren't coming out of the relationship saying, that was the most amazing person ever. I can't wait to date them again. They're like the love of my life. Most people are not coming out of a relationship like that. So if he can't give you a perspective that is realistic or in line with what someone would actually say about their ex, which most of the time they're going to talk about the bad things or the reason that the relationship didn't work out. If he seems to have no understanding of what her possible perspective would be, either he's lying to you or he's just so emotionally stunted that he doesn't know how to step outside of himself and see things from another perspective. Either way, that's horrible news for you, because you need a man who can step outside of himself and see things from a perspective outside of his own. And you also need an honest man. If he cannot step outside of himself and identify perspectives outside of his own, he'll never be able to empathize or sympathize with you when you're going through things or feeling emotional about something he said or did to you. Okay? And like I said before, you have to be with someone that can take accountability, because that's going to show you if you're going to be able to solve problems or come to understandings with that person. If you're with someone that can't step outside of themselves and be honest about whether or not their intention was this, okay, I made you feel like that, I have to accept that. That's made you feel like that. What I said, what I did made you feel like that. I accept that, and I'm willing to change or adjust that because I care about you and I care about this relationship, right? Very bad sign if you ask him what, that's the technician. That's the technician. Hold on, guys. I'm going to go answer the door for my technician. Sorry about that, guys. I have a technician coming in to upgrade the Wi-Fi for you, literally for you, so that when I'm streaming, quality be higher, no dropouts, no lag, none of that glitching stuff. Okay, that's why I'm having a technician. Yeah, you just go down there. Yeah, upgrading the Wi-Fi for you.
You said it's okay if we put it here, right?
Yeah, that would be fine if it's possible.
Can I have a look?
Yeah. So that was number. What number was I on, guys? I want to get back to my. I was on honesty, right? So the question was, if I were to sit down with your ex, what would she say the reason you two broke up is? That was question number 4. Okay. Now, do you guys have any questions about that question? SA says, will he listen to us now? Like, will I listen to you? Or you're talking about the guy that you asked the question to? Missy America says, thanks for doing that. Oh, of course. Only the best for you guys. Especially, and the number one thing is, it's funny that you said that, Missy America. The number one thing is I wanted to make sure that you guys on YouTube get the clearest possible stream, because right now I know that the stream is more clear on TikTok than it is on YouTube. So I wanted you guys on YouTube to have an HD, crispy, clear live stream. That's literally why. Someone says, does the technician have questions? No, I don't think he has. I don't think the technician has questions. It's a guy. Okay. Right. So very important, right? If I were to sit down with your ex, what would she say the reason you two broke up is? Okay. You really want to have an understanding of if he can step outside of himself, like I said, and have a perspective outside of his own and be honest about that perspective. It's okay. Like you guys hear me say it all the time. Okay. And I'm not a perfect man. You guys hear me say it all the time. I'm a red flag man. You guys hear me say all the time, I'm not a perfect man. Don't listen to me thinking that you're hearing from a man who's so evolved and so amazing that I'm able to tell you everything that a man should do and how he should act because I do everything amazing and perfect. No. I do a lot of stuff wrong. I make a lot of mistakes. I even do things that I tell you guys you shouldn't do. Okay? Because I'm an actual real human being. I'm not a robot. Okay? I have emotions and feelings too. Surprise, surprise. Right? But I say that to say, it's better to be with someone who can acknowledge and be honest about their flaws and the things that they need to work on, because then at least you have something to work with. Remember what I talked about with the accountability? When you start asking these questions and you're getting a sense that this guy doesn't have a lot of accountability, you're definitely in the wrong place, because you're not going to be able to work with that. How can you work with someone who is not going to be accountable to the person that they are? Okay? You're not going to be able to fix many things. You're not going to be able to get anywhere or resolve any problems. Okay? Someone asked a great question. Someone said, what would your ex say? My ex would say, I don't think she would say I'm a narcissist. I think she would say, I am a manipulator. She'd definitely say I'm a manipulator, and I'm a schemer. She loved to say that. You're such a schemer. Why are you always scheming? And she would say I'm too calculated. She used to really hate that I would ask. She used to really hate that I would get her. I would put her in like a trance where I would ask her so many back to back questions that she wouldn't realize she's been talking for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes straight. And then she'd be like, but I don't know, you haven't said anything. Why aren't you talking? But what about you? And then I'd be like, oh no, but you see, but this is so interesting what you just said. And I just make it about her again. And then she just like go on, and cause she was not used to yapping so much. And so she kind of low-key, she would not even low-key, like she would get upset that she would yap so much. Right? So, and it's just me. Like I ask a lot of questions and I don't really talk too much about myself. But that's fine. It's fine. So yeah, that's what she would say. Now, when we go to, so honesty was number 4. Number 5, we have past decisions. So number 1 had to do with purpose. Number 2 had to do with interest. Number 3 had to do with accountability. Number 4 had to do with honesty. Number 5 has to do with past decisions. So this is the question. If younger you were to meet you now, would they be disappointed or proud with the person you are today? Okay? Okay, no problem. Right? So I'll say it again. If younger you were to meet you now, would he, where you're asking a guy, would he be disappointed or proud of the person you are today? Okay, this is a great question because, like I said, it has to do with his past decisions, and you can really gauge whether or not someone is feels like they have been moving in the right direction. We have this really interesting thing that I don't want to go on a rant too much, but this is going to get philosophical. We have this really interesting thing that we do as human beings where we have a version of ourselves that we aspire to be and believe we are, right? Then we have a version of ourselves that we actually are, meaning how other people receive us based on just our actions, not based on our intentions, because we always project our intentions onto our actions because we feel like we always have these great, amazing intentions. And so our actions are always justified or seen through that lens of, oh my God, my intention was so good. Oh my God, I had the best of intentions. Oh my God, I have such a good heart. So you shouldn't take it that way because I have good intentions, right? The problem is other people aren't in our heads and other people don't see our intentions. They only see and receive our actions. So I say that to say a lot of us have a split down the middle of who we think we are and who we actually are to the world. And a lot of times when someone thinks back to, right, their younger self and observes or thinks about the idea of observing their actions just as their actions, sometimes you'll find that your actions, just the simple action, not the intention, is not a good representation of who you wanted to be or intended to be. We all do this, okay? And it's a great question because it tends to get people talking about the things or decisions they may or may not have made that are not in line with who they want to be. This is a question I would definitely advise you to ask follow-ups on. So I would ask you to ask, like, can you give me an example of, things that are decisions that you made that maybe if you're disappointed, like why would younger you be disappointed, right? And a lot of times you'll hear people start talking about like decisions, whether it be, oh, I went to a school that I only went to because of my relationship at the time or because someone else told me to go to, or, I just did some stuff that when I was younger, I never thought I would be doing. Now I'm a pothead. When I was younger, I never thought I'd be smoking weed as much as I thought I'd be smoking it right now, right? And you'll get a really cool, interesting understanding of the things that someone, specifically this guy, the decisions that this person is not very proud of, okay? And this is good because in the span of you dating someone, you always want to be in a position where you're helping them and making it easier for them to take off the mask, right? You always want to make it easier for them to take off the mask. The easier it is for them to take off the mask, the better it is for you, because now you get to see the real person and gauge your relationship on the real person as opposed to the idea of that person or the first date's, presentation of that person. Exorcism in the YouTube chat says, I thought you were bi, bro. I mean, I don't care, but it's cool. You date girls? Yeah, I'm a heterosexual straight man, so I date girls. I date women's. I like women's. How does that one thing go where the guy says, I don't like men's anymore. I like women's. Nah, I don't know. This is a silly meme that I read. Yeah. Okay. So past decisions. If you were to meet if younger you were to meet you now, would he be proud or disappointed with the person you are today? It also gives you a good gauge on remember what I told you about the misalignment? Right? With the happiness and the purpose and not being in alignment, not doing the things in your own life that are in alignment with what you feel is fulfilling you and making you happy and giving you purpose. This is also a good indicator of that in this question, because usually when people think back to their younger selves, they'll think back to the version of themselves that wasn't really bogged down by the fear of rejection or the fear of failure and was kind of just like more fearless and confident and didn't know enough about the world to have all of these things stopping them from thinking or feeling or talking or doing what it is that they wanted to do. And when they think back to that younger version of themselves, a lot of times they'll start talking to you about decisions they made and the position they are in their life that they don't feel the younger version of themselves would have been proud of. and they start to realize their own misalignment in life, because younger them wanted to do a bunch of things, wanted to try a bunch of things, wanted to shoot for and be all these specific things. And if you, older you, adult you, is not that can be a splash of cold water, right? For some people. And some people, and some guys specifically, have never even thought about that. They've never even thought about how much the version of themselves that they wanted to be when they were younger has veered from who they ended up being, whether it be because of money, circumstance, girlfriends, relationships, family members, whatever it may be. And for some guys, they'll realize when you ask them this question, how far and how misaligned they are from their own happiness or purpose. And remember, I told you, that's the only way that you're going to end up with a guy who can be like this, like consistent, like this. You can't be with someone who's up one day, down the next day, up one day, down the next day. That's not sustainable, right? Everything that you're trying to shoot for is meant to be as sustainable as possible. Yeah. Everything you need to do has to be sustainable as possible. You cannot be in a place or with a man that doesn't have character traits or personality traits, or doesn't treat the relationship in a way that is sustainable. Can't be up one day and super down the next day. Okay, so that's why that one is important. So number 1 had to do with purpose. Number 2 had to do with interest. Number 3 had to do with accountability. Number 4 was honesty. Number 5, past decision. Number 6 has to do with his goals. This question, what is the biggest obstacle standing in the way of your future currently? Great question to ask. Because remember, like we talked about, okay, what's your purpose and things like that. Having direction, having purpose, having focus, having a place, having goals, right, is obviously important to getting to wherever it is that you want to be. So if you know where you want to be, consequently, that's not even a word. Consequently, that's the word. You will likely know what some of the biggest obstacles standing in the path that you're trying to take will be. This is a good question, because if he doesn't know the obstacles standing in his path, then he probably doesn't know where he is even trying to go. Because if I asked you, what's the biggest obstacle to becoming a doctor? What's someone going to say? Med school. What's the biggest obstacle to becoming a basketball player or an NBA player? I don't know, getting a scholarship, going to a D1 school. What's the biggest obstacle to being a nurse, studying for, the nurse test? I don't know what they call it. What's the biggest obstacle to being a lawyer? Passing the bar. You get what I'm saying? Like things like that. Like you'll understand if you have a goal. You'll understand what some of the major obstacles are shooting towards that goal. And that's good for you, because remember, this isn't all about you. You're trying to understand his mindset and his mind frame so that you can understand, hey, am I with someone that I can actually build a sustainable relationship with? Or am I with someone who's just here for the thrills, doesn't really know what they want, doesn't really have any direction? Because rest assured, how they do their life is how they're going to do you. If he doesn't have any direction, doesn't know what he wants, doesn't know what to look forward to, doesn't even know why he's here on this planet Earth or what he's meant to be doing, trust you. Trust me, you. Trust you, me. Sorry. You will find yourself very soon down the road with a man who is telling you, yeah, I don't really know what I want in this relationship, or I'm not really sure what we should be doing. I'm not really sure what I want us to be. That's why a lot of you end up with men that all they can tell you is, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's see where it goes, right? Because that's how they do their life. Let's see where it goes, men. You're with let's see where it goes, men in life. And so what do they do in the relationship? They tell you, let's see where things go. So we had purpose, number 1. We had interest, number 2. We had accountability, number 3. We had honesty, number 4. Past decisions, number 5. Goals was number 6. And number 7, you want to get him to take the mask off. So you ask him this question: what do you think is the character trait you still need to work on the most? This is an awesome, awesome question because, like I said, you want on these dates with these men, you really want to get in the habit of seeing who they really are. Get off of the first date syndrome. First date syndrome is super annoying and it's super pointless because you don't really get a grasp of who the person really is. You're not going to spend the rest of your life with who they are on the first date, just truly and honestly. You're going to spend the rest of your life with who they really are on a Tuesday afternoon. Okay? That's who you're going to be knowing. And just like anyone else, right? You're not perfect. He's not perfect. Nobody is perfect. So you probably want to know the things that he is imperfect in. The character traits that are not so pretty, the things about him that aren't as awesome or amazing and, things that you want to soak in to your body. That sounded weird. Okay? Right? You probably want to know those things that are probably a little less amazing because that's who you're actually going to be spending your time with. That's who you're actually going to be waking up to. That's who you're actually going to be going through life with. The ups and the downs, right? So the better you can understand and the quicker you can understand the flaws and the things that don't work so well, the better. That's why you want to be asking a question that has to do with character traits he thinks he needs to work on. Because if he sits there and you ask him that question and he says, to be honest with you, I need to work on my anger. When I get angry, I black out and I say a lot of things that I don't mean. And I do a lot of things that are hurtful to people and even the people that I love. And I really need to control my anger. Now, that's good. Good for you. Good for you because now you know that without having to experience that. And if you know that that's not something that can work for you, now you can quickly move yourself out of this relationship. Okay? Because like I said, the whole point of all these questions is not that, this is right, this is wrong. Only look for this answer. If you don't get this answer, then you're gathering information that you can choose how to use that information to your benefit to decide whether or not you want to be in that relationship for the rest of your life. Okay? So very important. Very important. Now, I got to run because I got to go take care of this Wi-Fi situation and the technician. I will be back. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern time. For those of you who missed any of the questions and want to go back and rewatch the questions over again, just go onto my YouTube and you guys can rewatch the stream in its entirety. Okay. And I'll be back again tomorrow, 4 p.m. And we're going to do this all over again. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can go right ahead up there and follow me on Instagram. Also, make sure to join the Discord. The Discord is in my TikTok bio if you're on TikTok. And it's in the link it's in the description of the video if you're on YouTube as well. Okay. I got to run. I'm going to fix the Wi-Fi and for myself, make it real nice for you guys. And tomorrow we're going to have such an amazing HD crisp stream. Everything's going to be so awesome. Okay. I love you so much. I will see you guys tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Exactly. Okay.